Can you beat Pokemon Black with just a Dunsparce? It's easy to write Dunsparce off as just another single stage normal type with okay stats, because it is. But Dunsparce does actually have a few things going for them. For one, their stats are actually really good early game when compared to commonly used Pokemon like Lillipup. Specifically, Dunsparce's HP provides it with some half decent bulk. Dunsparce also gets access to a variety of moves, but because it's Pokemon Black, many of them are locked behind post-game or battle points. Nonetheless, Dunsparce learns some really interesting moves that you wouldn't think it'd be able to learn, like Solar Beam. Let's go over the rules. You can only use one Dunsparce for battling purposes, minus one exception we'll talk about later. No cheats such as rare candies are allowed, however speed up is allowed. You may catch and use other Pokemon for required HMs. No items in battle, such as potions, are allowed, but held items are okay. Dunsparce's starting moveset leaves a lot to be desired. Dunsparce only starts with Defense Curl and Rage. Rage is a 20 base power normal move that does more damage the more times you get hit after using the move. Any move that requires you to take damage to unlock its full potential is an objectively bad move. However, since Dunsparce's stats are genuinely good early on, Rage is enough to deal with most of the early and even some of the mid-game fights. After naming ourselves accordingly, beating our two rivals, and ignoring Bianca's family issues, we nickname our Dunsparce Betty. After plowing through the rest of the tutorial, we listen to Ghetsis' impassioned speech about how keeping Pokemon in confined balls is inhumane. Immediately after which, N, Team Plasma's leader, keeps his Purloin in a confined ball so he can fight other children to win brownie points or something, I don't know. Nevertheless, we dust him with our rage-spamming Dunsparce, then remember how to run, and make our way to Striaton City. Outside the city, Bianca fights us again, and nearly won, until she forgot where her tackle button was, and accidentally clicked Tail Whip for no reason at all. We also learned the move Yawn in this battle, which is really good. Yawn is a 100% accurate move that puts the Pokemon to sleep, but it takes 2 turns to take effect. We will be using Yawn for most of the run. Sharon puts up a much worse fight in the trainer school, and then we go to take on the gym trainers, nearly dying to a Lillipup. I didn't have much of a plan entering the first gym, but once Lillipup was yawned to sleep, we set up a few defense curls, and Silence simply couldn't hold back against the Rage Assault. Next, we help Fennel with the Dream Dust experiments, and I catch a Patrat to use Cut to progress to the Dream Yard, where we promptly dismantle 2 Team Plasma Grunts. After finishing talking to Fennel, we gain a cooler looking bottom screen with a bunch of defunct Wi-Fi features that don't work. Do you remember when I mentioned an exception for only using Dunsparce in battle? Well, these 2 kindergartens apparently hold more power than any other trainers in this game, as they force us to bring 2 Pokemon. So to compensate, I bring Mr. Cut the Patrat and order him only to attack Betty, effectively making the battle a 3-on-1. However, despite this, Betty comes out on top on our first try. Sharon refuses to learn his lesson and is handed yet another L from the strongest Dunsparce you've ever seen. After dispatching of the last Team Plasma Grunts for a while, we head to Lenora's gym, only to be rudely interrupted by N. Feeling pretty confident from not having to reset once so far, I just go for it, thinking N would be easy, like all the other trainers. I proceeded to lose 3 times to N. No matter what I did, things seemed doomed. Rage didn't do enough damage fast enough, and N's Timber was firing off super effective low kicks at my Dunsparce. We needed to switch things up. I started grinding in the grass, assuming I'd have to level up many times over just to beat N. But then I saw it. A new, often overlooked tool, Rollout. Rollout is a 30 base power rock move with 90% accuracy that doubles in power every time you use it. But you'll be locked into the move for 5 turns, or until you miss. This greatly improves Dunsparce's burst damage and is enough to get us past N easily. The gym trainers in the second gym pose no issue, however Lenora's seems to be our biggest roadblock so far. We could kill the Courtier somewhat consistently, but had no health by the time Watchhog came out and used Retaliate, which does more damage after a Pokemon is knocked out. We gain 2 levels from various Pinwheel Forest trainers and then return to Lenora, where we finally take her down after 11 resets. Once again, no overwhelming strategy was required, we just needed to be a little stronger and a little lucky. After our sweet victory, Team Plasma makes sure everyone is aware that they think this Dragon Skull is pretty rad, and that they'd like to steal it. Me and Berg are tasked with stamping out these Plasma Grunts and returning the skull to the museum. We follow their trail, and Berg, being a decorated gym leader with battle experience, decides that he should take the easy path, while the 10-year-old child with just a Dunsparce should risk their lives in the swamp. Real class act you are, Berg. Anyway, grudges aside, we return the skull to Lenora and trek onward to Castelia City. Here we find more Plasma Grunts who stand no chance versus our superior being, and make our way to the third gym. The combination of Yawn, Defense Curl, and super effective Rollout allows us to beat all of the trainers and Berg on our first try. I guess I know why Berg took the easy path now. After getting a useless TM from Berg, we fight Bianca again, and swiftly demolish her team, which is no match for Betty's rollout. Next we fight Sharon, who is clearly mad about how the last 2 fights have gone, and has stepped up his A game. We lost over and over to Sharon's Servine. You see, Sharon equipped his Servine with a Citrus Berry, which makes rollout from our usual range a 3-hit KO instead of a 2-hit. Combine this with rollout being only 90% accurate, and Leaf Tornado having a chance to lower our accuracy, you have a VGC player's worst nightmare. However, I forgot that rollout has a secret mechanic. Rollout's base power is boosted by double if you use the move Defense Curl first. After realizing this and making the adjustment, we defeat Sharon. We head past the desert and up to Nimbasa City, where we help save an old man from Team Plasma. Nimbasa City is special compared to all the other cities we've seen so far. Nimbasa City holds a treasure that makes this run bearable. In the Poke Center, the bottom cashier sells TMs. One of these TMs they sell is Return. Return is an incredible upgrade. Return is a normal type move that does more damage the more friendly the user is. In a normal playthrough, when you grind friendship to evolve a Pokemon for example, it's usually pretty annoying because you have to spend a lot of time with them in the front of your party, give them medicines, walk around with them for a bit. It's just a hassle. But because we've only used Dunsparce for every battle, we're basically always at max friendship. This means that Return is a gnarly 102 base power stab normal move. With our newfound signature move, we have a date with N at the top of the Ferris wheel, but things turn sour when we question his motives and he challenges us to a fight. N, true to form, defeats us many times. The issue in this fight is his Scraggy. He takes 2 returns to kill and has the super effective move Brick Break, which does a little under half our health, leaving us with little wiggle room for the rest of the fight. He also has Sand Attack, which can cause us to lose very quickly. The reason we need more health is because N's Darumaka has Hustle, which lowers his move's accuracy but heavily boosts its damage. And that's not even mentioning the Sigilyph, who is faster than us and is almost guaranteed to land an Air Cutter. After failing to win for about half an hour, we decide to level up Betty on some of the bicycle trainers in the routes above. This allows us to finally defeat N. The 4th gym goes much like the last. We beat everyone in it, including Elisa first try, with no problems whatsoever, although she did make it close. Next, we beat Sharon once more and learn the crucial move Roost, which heals the user for half their max HP. In a run where you're not allowed to use potions in battle, having recovery in any run is really important. Then, we lower the drawbridge and make our way to Banger City. Here, we beat up some more Plasma Grunts and pick up a Heart Scale, which will be important later. Next, we make our way to the 5th gym. Clay is a beast, but his first 2 Pokemon are pushovers. The real issue here is his Excadrill. It takes 3 hits to KO and has amazing stats, so we basically have to get max sleep turns with Yawn to win. Is what I would say if I didn't accidentally stumble upon a new strategy. Clay leads Krokorok, which has the move Swagger, which confuses the opponent and raises their attack stat by 1. The idea of this move is that if you hit yourself in confusion, you'll do a lot of damage to yourself thanks to your own stat being boosted. But what if you just never hit yourself in confusion? Well, then Krokorok just raises your attack by 1. Which is pretty nice. So, in the first fight I accidentally discover this, we just never get confused, and Krokorok raises our attack by 1, and we sweep Excadrill, only a 2-hit KO now instead of 3 hits. Using this method, we beat Clay easily, although it's probably more apt to say that Clay beat himself. Anyway, we head north to fight Bianca once more. Clay then helps us enter Chargestone Cave, where we find and battle N. We narrowly achieve victory and exit the cave. We talk to Skyla, who tells us to go ring a bell or whatever, so we do, after which we go and challenge her gym. We still have the rock type move rollout, so flying types aren't really an issue whatsoever. This includes Skyla's entire team, which we mow down easily. The hardest part about this gym was remembering how to do the puzzle designed for 5-year-olds. But I mean seriously, look! The cannon shot that you have to go down is hidden in the screen by this little bar here. Anyway, we move on and beat Sharon, and then we escape Twist Mountain after an embarrassing amount of time. No joke, I swear I went in every path except the right one. This took me like an hour to get out of. I am livid. Anger aside, when we finally get out of Twist Mountain, we head straight to the Ice Gym, where we have a much easier time with the puzzles, and Bryson himself is no match for our over-leveled beast, and we nab our 7th gym badge. We then go play in a crumbling tower that is definitely not OSHA compliant and see N fly away on Zekrom. I then catch a Tranquil to use the move Fly, and head back to the desert, where we pick up the Shadow Ball TM and have a chat with Getsus. Upon returning, we trek through the marsh, fight Bianca one more time, and get to the final city, where Getsis gives us yet another lecture. Iris shows us the way to the gym, and we defeat the trainers with only a little pushback. Drayden would have caused us some trouble if not for Betty getting a critical hit that one-shot Drayden's Haxorus, getting us our final gym badge. We face off against Sharon one final time, and then we enter Victory Road. We open each gate, making sure to spit on Bergs on the way out, and traverse up Victory Road to the top. Before entering the Elite Four, we stock up on healing items for in-between fights and pick up one more Heart Scale in the Desert Resort. We use these Heart Scales to teach Betty the moves Glare and Coil. Yawn is more consistent than Glare, and Sleep is a better status to inflict on an opponent, but Yawn takes 2 turns to take effect, while Paralysis from Glare is instant. Coil raises Dunsparce's attack, defense, and accuracy all by 1. This allows us to set up versus less threatening Pokemon to deal with the heavy hitters later in many fights. Our final moveset going into the Elite Four is Return, Coil, Roost, and Glare. Gen 5's Elite Four is really unfavorable for Dunsparce, as you'll soon see. However, we start off with a softball in the form of Caitlyn. We defeat her with ease, no problems there. But next up is Marshall. Marshall has a bunch of strong, super effective fighting types, which poses a real challenge for us. We only need to set up one Coil to sweep through Marshall's team, but getting that one Coil up relies on Throw getting paralyzed multiple times and or missing moves like Stone Edge. After an hour of resets, we get the single Coil up safely, and only have one more Pokemon in our way. Sawk. I know a return will one-shot, so I click it thinking nothing much of it. The battle is won, right? Wrong. My heart sank. Sturdy. How could I forget? Sawk has Sturdy, meaning that it'll live on 1 health if a move would normally one-hit KO it. The Sawk goes for Brick Break, a super effective base 70 fighting move. I nearly reset the fight once more, thinking this is just another problem I'll have to find a solution around. But somehow, the super effective Brick Break leaves Dunsparce on 13 HP, and we secure the victory. Side note, that Brick Break definitely would have killed if it was a critical hit, and I would have had to reset for probably another hour to get a run like this. Next up is Grimsley, who had a Bisharp that I was really worried about. But surprisingly, after the struggles with Marshall, we set up 2 Coils and sweep Grimsley on our first try. We head up to the last member of the Elite Four, Chantal. Unlike the other trainers, we won't be able to spam Return, which has been a really solid strategy so far. Chantal has Ghost types, which means we won't be able to be hit by their Ghost moves, but we won't be able to hit them with our normal moves, so we need something else, a different attacking move. We try and teach Betty Shadow Ball, which we found earlier, but it's in vain. With this strategy, we can sometimes get past her Coffagrigus, but her Jellicent has the ability Cursed Body, which can disable our only attacking move, and we can't set up with Coils to sweep because Shadow Ball is a special move, not a physical one. We go back to the drawing board, needing a way to knock out Jellicent in 1 hit. I go through my bag of TMs looking for an answer, and then it appears. Bulldoze. Bulldoze is an unremarkable 60 base power ground move that lowers the speed of the opponent when hit. Now that doesn't sound too crazy, because it really isn't, but what it is good enough. It's a physical move that can hit all of Chantal's Pokemon, meaning that we can sweep if we set up enough Coils. We teach Betty Bulldoze and do some light testing. Eventually we learn we will need to set up a grand 5 Coils to one-shot Jellicent. This wouldn't be too much of an issue if Coffagrigus, Chantal's first Pokemon, only attacked us. Coffagrigus can only hit us with Psychic, which we easily tank, and with access to Roost, we're not worried about damage from Coffagrigus. But there's a trick. Coffagrigus has Will-O-Wisp, which has a 75% chance of burning us. Burned Pokemon have their attack stat effectively cut in half, meaning that if we get burned, there is no way for us to one-shot Jellicent, let alone Chantal's other Pokemon like Golurk. So the strategy for winning here is to paralyze Coffagrigus with Glare, set up 5 Coils, and have enough health to take damage from Pokemon for the rest of the fight. That's about 7 to 10 turns where I need Chantal to pull an Aaron Zhang and miss every Will-O-Wisp under the sun. We do have one more trick up our sleeve though. So far, I haven't used held items because I simply haven't needed them. But trust me when I say that in this fight, I needed one. Something. Anything to help. The only item that was useful was inconsistent and janky. But that's exactly what I needed to win this fight. I needed to be incredibly inconsistent and overperform. So I equipped Betty with Bright Powder. Bright Powder causes all moves from the opponents to have 10% less accuracy. This turns Will-O-Wisp into a 65% accurate move, which makes this fight a little more doable. Even with all this planning, the fight is still incredibly unforgiving. This is when I realized that the real final boss of this run was going to be Chantal. I would continue to lose, over and over. and as I did, I started to find new problems. Like if Cofagrigus lands a special defense drop when using Psychic, the run is basically over. But I try again, until finally it happened. With a combination of paralysis and good RNG, Cofagrigus finally lets us set up, and we sweep Chantal, and are stupid jealous of. It only took 93 resets. I counted. I went back and I counted. So I don't mean to break the script of this video, but I'm still actually so mad about how long it took. Like, I've wasted so much of my life just on Chantal. Anyway, but we had succeeded. Yes, there was still N and Getsus to fight, but I rested well knowing that the worst of it all was over. Alder, despite being a swell guy and supposedly the champion, loses to N, making him the de facto champion. We are about to be stopped by Team Plasma's higher-ups, but then all the previous gym leaders come to our aid. Except for Silent, who I guess is like still upset about losing to Dunsparce. Anyway, we reach the top of Team Plasma's castle, ignore Reshiram, and face N, who despite having Zekrom, loses after setting up just a few coils. The real leader of Team Plasma fesses up and challenges us to the real last fight of the game. Getsus' team, unlike N's, is no pushover. He too has a Cofagrigus that causes this fight to be difficult, but for a different reason than Chantal's. Instead of using Will-O-Wisp to stop sweeps, Getsus uses Toxic, which badly poisons Betty, meaning that poison will increase the residual damage it does by twofold every turn. This doesn't give us nearly enough time to beat Getsus' full team of 6 Pokemon, even if we coil 6 times. But sometimes, you have to fight fire with fire. You know what is better than being badly poisoned by Toxic? Being just a little poisoned by a random Trubbish. We intentionally poison ourselves before the Getsus fight because we can't be poisoned by Toxic if we're already poisoned. Using this strategy, after just 7 resets, we are able to defeat Getsus and claim victory. So yes, you can beat Pokemon Black with just a Dunsparce. Subscribe if you liked this video. Leave me feedback and suggestions in the comments below. Let me know if you like this type of content and would like to see more. Thanks for watching this video, and catch you later.